everybody, Karyn Bryant here. I'm talking with Bo Nickal, who is facing Tresean Gore at UFC 290 in July. Listen, Bo, I'm just really glad to get to know you because you're already, like, you got to the UFC and you're a big deal already. So nice to meet you. Do you feel that way? Do you feel like you're a big deal?
Not really. I kind of feel pretty much the exact same. For me, I feel like, getting to this point from where I started MMA was really quick, right? I've only been doing MMA for a year and a half. I just had my first pro fight less than a year ago. But as far as being in the public, being in the media, I feel like it's been a really slow build for me. Just coming from wrestling, I was a big recruit in high school, and then of course wrestling in college at Penn State. We had a big fan base and stuff, and so I was experiencing a lot of media and attention on that level. But obviously this is a new level. But having said that, I feel well prepared, and again, it's a slow build to get to this point for me.
Nice. Well, and I was kind of setting you up there too. I mean, like, who's the a-hole that says, yeah, like, I am a big deal,
Yeah.
Not that would. I mean, confidence is good. Let's put it that way. But yeah, I respect that answer. And yeah, you have been, I guess that's kind of what it is, right? It's that you've been a wrestling big deal for a long time. And so you came into the UFC with that momentum. I'm curious for you, a lot of people talk about different disciplines that they had before getting into MMA. A lot of people believe wrestling is the best one. Would you say so?
I mean, I think so. If you look at it statistically, of course, wrestling has tons and tons of champions and guys that have, going down on the all-time lists, and it's just such a strong base. I think, obviously, for the technical aspects of the sport, being able to take your opponent down, hold them down, and take advantage of that. But I think more than that, when you look at high-level wrestlers, most people start at a very young age. I started wrestling when I was 5 years old. And by the time I was 8, 9, 10, I was wrestling, 100, 200 matches a year. And so if you look at competition reps of how many times I've had to go out there, face an opponent in a combat sport, I don't think that anybody really even comes close as far as having that many reps at that age. And so, when you look at most high-level wrestlers are just like me. They've gone through that youth circuit, high school circuit, college circuit, and you're just used to weighing in, competing, feeling the pressure, big crowds at the NCAA tournament or at a big duel. And so I think that preparation really sets a lot of wrestlers apart and prepares them for what a UFC, environment is like. And I think it's a huge advantage. So, hopefully, I'm rooting for all the wrestlers. Hopefully I continue to do well and represent for wrestling, and all the other wrestlers can as well.
I love that also from what I've heard from various wrestlers is that what you just talked about, that competition circuit, that what you've gone through. Also, maybe you'll wrestle multiple times during a day. If you lost one, it helps you mentally too, learn how to shake something off, how to stay focused on the end game, even if you have a little bit of a hiccup on the way.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, that's huge. Not only in competition, let's say, a tournament where you might wrestle 5 matches in a day, but the season, NCAA wrestling season is long, runs November through March. And so you're going to wrestle 30 plus matches in the year. And the ultimate goal is to be an NCAA champion. And so, for me, I had, I guess, 2 years where I went undefeated, but there were my freshman and sophomore year, I had losses. I had hiccups where I had to, reset, refocus, and eventually wrestle those guys that had beat me again later in the year. And so, just that mental fortitude that wrestling creates, having to compete so much and, be consistent day in, day out. I think that's something that, is really, really helping guys, perform at a high level in MMA.
I love it. It's true. And it's funny. There was a few years back, and I think I have the video on my channel. I should look at it. They had a media wrestling workout for us, right? It was back at the Tough Gym. This was a while back. And I could name some names of some media people who didn't do it. Ariel. He totally did it. I'm busting him right now. But a bunch of us did, right? And so I remember the wrestling part though, and DC was the one taking us through the wrestling. And so he had us all, and it was only 20 minutes. Bo when I tell you, I was like, this is the hardest thing in the world. The duck walking, the this and that. But one thing, and I'm very proud of this, is he said something like, I need a volunteer. And I was just like, whatever, I'll just do it. And he said, sprawl. Now, I've never wrestled in my life. He made me sprawl. I sprawled, and he's like, look at that, everybody. And I thought, oh, here I go. And he's like, no, that was perfect, actually, because, I rolled my hips and this and that. And anyway, I was very excited. And I thought, okay, I get a sense of what wrestling is. But it's so hard. I just can't. So for you though, like all those practices, everything, what was your favorite part? I guess there's a favorite part, right? But there has to be something about wrestling practice that you even didn't like, right?
Yeah, it's interesting because I did it for such a long time, over 2 years. And even before that, my dad was a wrestler, a wrestling coach. My grandpa was a wrestler and a wrestling coach. So very much in my DNA and in my family. And so it's something that kind of, I feel like what I was initially like placed into without a choice. And, but I always enjoyed it. I always gravitated towards it. I did a lot of sports growing up. I played baseball and football and soccer, and I ran track, and I did swimming. So I did a ton of sports, and wrestling was always the most, I identified with it the most. And it was the sport that I took the most seriously. And I think just the one-on-one competition of just you going out there, having to compete, having to perform against somebody else that's trying to, beat you in whatever way possible. The strategy behind that, I really enjoy that. I really love that. And I would say on the opposite end of the spectrum, there's a lot of things that are hard, right? Like hard practice, workouts, conditioning, making weight. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's all just part of it, right? Like there's parts that are going to suck. There's stuff that's not going to be fun. It's never fun to cut weight. It's never fun to lose. Honestly, losing is probably the worst part of it, I guess.
Yeah, right.
About it, but I guess all that stuff that's not fun, I feel like has helped, build me into the person that I am in today and help build character. And it's all things that I'm really grateful for. Stuff that I'll gladly kind of lean into now, knowing what that brings down the road when you're able to suffer and kind of withstand that pressure and that feeling for a long time. Then you can kind of I at this point kind of see what comes out the other end. And for me, that's kind of just where I want to live, like every day.
So with that great base though, and that great, you have that amazing skill set that is so, we hear so often though, that just because you're a great wrestler doesn't mean you're a great MMA wrestler. So there is a difference, obviously, and now you have to integrate striking into your game. So how, and you're like you already mentioned, it's early in your MMA career, but how are you seeing that transition being made, and how either easy or difficult has it been for you to add in the striking element?
I think that one thing that is very interesting, I think there's a ton of truth to what you're saying. There's a lot of wrestlers that I think maybe would have a difficult time transitioning to MMA, and MMA wrestling is definitely a lot different than regular wrestling. There's a lot of concepts that translate, but there's a lot of different little nuances as well. And so for me, I think that one of the biggest things that's helped me progress so fast is the fact that I've always been a student of the sport. When I was, 8, 9 years old, I remember, most of my friends would be watching cartoons. I would be watching wrestling videos on YouTube, or, my dad got this set of this DVD set of, it was the best Olympic trials matches, and it had like 50 matches on it from the Olympic trials from maybe maybe 1990, late 80s, early 90s, the early 2000s. And I would just watch that over and over and over again. And so I think that for me, I take the same approach with MMA and with striking. Is I watch tons and tons of film, and I'm always studying, always looking for new techniques and seeing how the best of the best are positioning themselves and how they're setting things up. And, not just the strikes that are landed. Of course, everybody wants to kind of be a fan and enjoy the knockout or something like that. But it's really, to me, the nuance of how it's getting set up. Where's the guy's feet? What's he doing with his hands? What's the 10 to 15 seconds leading up to the knockout really look like, and why did that happen, and the psychology behind it. So I think that stuff has really helped me progress to this point, and I'm going to continue to really dive into that and just be a student of the sport, a student of the game as much as I can until the end of my career.
Nice. Didn't Phil Davis, wasn't he one of the guys from your school?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right? Yeah, so Phil became a champ. And also, I remember, though, back in the day when he was fighting Rashad, I mean, when we want to talk about two great champion wrestlers, and I remember that press conference. Do you remember what he said? I mean, I don't know if you were a fight fan back then, but we were at the... Well, there was that scandal, right? I don't want to get into everything about the scandal, but Rashad said to Phil that he said something like, I'm going to put my hands on you worse than that coach did to the kids at Penn State. And I mean, everybody was like, oh my God, you did not just say that. And it was like, it was such a good line, Bo, but it was too soon. You know what I mean? And everybody
still too soon, probably.
It is too soon. You're right. But it was one of those things where like everybody in the room was like, oh my God, it was legendary. You know, it was legendary. If there had been the same kind of social media as we have now, it would have been crazy. But yeah, there's a lot of great examples for you. You know, speaking obviously of the wrestling, Tresean is a good wrestler too. I believe I got my stats here. 71% takedown accuracy and 81% defense. So, you know, a lot of time when we do have wrestler versus wrestler, we get a striking battle. But what do you think you're going to expect when you and Tresean square up?
You know, I think that his game plan, he probably, you know, obviously hopes to keep it standing, hopes to be able to stay on his feet and, you know, kind of play to his strengths. But the way I see it, I don't really feel like there's any way that he could stop me from taking him down. You know, even if he defends one, I'm still just going to keep coming at him. I'm ready to go for 15 minutes. And but realistically, I think that I'll get him on the ground, whether I knock him down or whether I take him down. And then probably, you know, once I get him on the ground once, he's not getting back up. That's for certain. You know, I not only can hold these MMA guys down, I can hold the best wrestlers in the world down, guys that have been wrestling their whole life, 20 plus years. You know, that's what I did in college. That's what I still can do to this day. So I don't know how a guy that's going to train wrestling for 8 weeks or kind of part-time train wrestling in the MMA sense, I don't know what he's going to be able to do to stop me. So yeah, I mean, I don't like to give, I guess, exact predictions for the fight because I'm ready to adjust and change plan and fight however I need to win and to get the finish. But if I have to do a prediction, I think that I'll probably get him on the ground first round and either TKO him or sub him.
You're going to have a big packed audience, big packed arena rather, a huge audience. And again, kind of getting back to what I was talking about at the beginning, there's already a lot of focus put on you. There's a lot of opportunity given to you, and you're rising to the occasion. I mean, what do you want to achieve, right? Because some folks get here and they go, I'm going to be the youngest champion, or I'm going to, you know, set this record, and I'm going to do this by the age of such and such. And while I think it's great to have goals, sometimes I think, well, don't you just got here, you know what I mean? Like, don't hurry. What do you want? What's sort of the timeline you hope to have?
Yeah, you know, I think that I don't really put a timeline on my goals, I wouldn't say, because I'm going to keep, you know, chasing after them until I achieve them. You know, I believe with my whole heart that every goal that I have out in front of me that I'm going to be able to achieve. And so, you know, I don't really have a timeline for it. The main thing that I'm focused on right now as a fighter is just improving, getting better every single day, being consistent. And, you know, I think that the results will speak for themselves. So, you know, I don't really feel like it's super important to live so far in the future. And you know, it's important to have goals and to know where you're headed. But I try to be as present as I can every day and just improve on what's right in front of me. And that's my focus. And I know that if I keep doing that, I stay consistent, I stay true to my roots and, you know, listen to my coaches and my team. I have a lot of great people around me that I'm going to achieve everything that I want.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited to watch you, and I'm excited for the journey. It's cool, and I like too, like, yeah, the fact that you already had to do 2 contender fights and stuff. So, you know, you yeah, it's not like you know, some people might be like, oh, he's getting everything, but you know, you're working for it. I do want to ask you though, before I let you go, What are your favorite wrestling movies? Because obviously it comes up in a lot of different things. There have been some good ones. There have been some bad ones. Maybe not necessarily just a wrestling movie, but wrestling in movies. Do you have any favorites?
Yeah, I think when I think about movies with wrestling, I would say, of course, the classic that everybody goes to is Vision Quest.
Of
It's
course.
one that was done very well in my opinion, and it does do wrestling a good bit of justice on what it's like. There are
Yeah.
some things that they focus on more. They focus on the cutting weight part a lot,
Uh-huh.
and that's
I
is
love
what
that movie.
it is a great movie. And but I'm really excited. There's some ones coming out soon. There's a movie that I believe Chris Pratt is producing on
Mhm.
Helen Rulis, who was the first American women's Olympic gold medalist in
Mhm.
for USA Wrestling in the history of women's wrestling. And then there's also a movie coming out on Anthony Robles, who was
Mhm.
national champ 125, where he was born without a leg, and was able to become a national champion. And I think there's some. I think Ben Affleck and Matt Damon are producing that, so it's kind of cool to see these big celebrity movie stars wanting to produce movies on wrestling. So I'm looking forward to watching those two for sure. One of my good buddies is actually cast in the movie with Robles, so it'll be interesting
Really?
to see him. Yeah, but yeah, so Vision Quest, of course, and then hopefully these new ones coming out will be pretty sweet as well.
Nice, nice. So what time is it right now though, Bo? I mean, do you do you look over there? It's so good. It's such a funny movie. That dude was hot too, by the way. I remember that back in the day we were all like, "Whoa, like seriously?" Yeah, no, it's and the wrestler she that just happened at the last Olympics, right?
It happened in 2016. So she was
Oh,
gold
okay.
medal in 2016, and then the story is pretty crazy. She had a lot of health issues, concussions, and stuff, and she was
Oh.
basically told that she was never going to get to compete again, and was able to get healthy, come back from that, and then this
Mhm.
past Olympics she won a bronze medal, which was amazing considering her circumstance. So yeah, it's one that I'm looking. I was there for the story because she trained with us a good amount here at
So
Penn
cool.
State. I'm excited to see what they do with it for a little movie.
Yeah, that is really cool. Well, look at maybe one day Ben Affleck and those guys would be making a movie about you. Who should play you? If they made the movie right now, who would play you?
Well, it's kind of funny. I already brought him up once, but my favorite actor is Chris Pratt. I love him. I think he's
Okay.
awesome. I just watched the new Guardians of the Galaxy, and he actually wrestled in high school too. So he's a big wrestling fan, big MMA fan, and
Yes.
yeah, he's pretty dope. So yeah, I would hope him,
Yeah,
but
that'd be great. That'd be great. I saw Guardians too. I thought it was awesome. It was just all enjoyable. There was nothing bad about it.
no doubt, yeah, those ones have been my favorites for a while. So I just like
Yeah.
to just enjoy them, and it's good,
Yeah.
good action.
Exactly. And visually too. Like all I don't know if people saw, but like the whole thing about it being bioengineered and all of that stuff, like just visually,
Yeah.
I thought, oh my God, this movie's amazing. And then they always have the killer soundtrack. So
Yeah, their soundtracks are for sure the best. But yeah, I thought it was super super awesome overall. I'm kind of entertained easily. I'm not like a harsh movie critic, but that's definitely I liked it a lot.
nice, nice. Well, listen, I really appreciate you taking the time. I know the fight is a little ways away, but it's just great to get to know you and kind of get to some more storylines leading up to it. And I love your mindset that you're not in a huge hurry. It's just going to be great to watch you fight. So after Tresean, do you like have you mapped out at least ideas of names you would call out?
It was kind of funny. I did some call outs after my second contender series fight,
Hmm.
and when I thought about it after, I was like, you know what, I don't really, that's not really my style. I feel like I already have a ton of people calling me out. There's
Hmm.
it's crazy. Guys that are UFC veterans, have 20, 30 fights, have been belt holders, are like talking about me and stuff and calling me out. I'm like, guys, I'm 4-0. I've been barely training, but so I guess when the time's right, you guys can get it too. But yeah, I mean, when the fight's over, I'll chat with my manager. I have a great management team, first round management in Malkikawa, and I really trust him. I feel like he's led me in the right direction so far.
Hmm.
Made sure that my career thus far has gone exactly as planned, and
Yeah.
we'll continue to do the same thing moving forward. Is just get with him and kind of map it out and plan it out after that. But right now, I'm just focused on July 8th.
Yeah, Malky works with a guy. What's his name? I don't know. Pretty great wrestler, pretty great champ. John something. Yeah. So yeah. Awesome, Bo. Well, really appreciate it. Yeah, and best of luck to you. Great getting to know you, and just stay healthy in camp. And we'll see you at UFC 290.
Thank you, Karyn. Really appreciate it.